Hello everyone. So, for everyone out there with their own fish room, I think I'm just kind of to a point where I needed to make a video about being overwhelmed. Well, there's a glare for you. And to think out loud a little bit, I'm just gonna do a quick whip around the fish room here and give updates on a few new inhabitants. Nothing major, just a couple of projects that I'm hoping to pick up over the winter to see how they turn out. These are the turquoise rainbows that I plucked out and have about 30 or so fry growing out from. And you'll see kind of how slow they grow out, but I think the finished product is worth it. Especially since I just recently found out from a Garden of Hillstream that turquoise rainbow fish are a care species. I've had these guys for a couple, 2-3 years, and I've never known that about them. So here comes one of the big males. At any rate, yeah, I'll go around to the other side of the room and we'll start there, but I'm gonna pause and go back so I don't make anybody too dizzy. Okay, so I know the first thing that's gonna stand out here is the guppies. You can kind of ignore the banged up male. He is my oldest male, and I pulled him out of my male only tank because he's just, I mean, as you can tell, he's getting up there in age. He needed a retirement facility. And then these two ones, I've shown before. These are an albino strain of guppy. Let me see if I can get it to focus at all on him. And I am getting ready to pull. Number one, they're a little bit longer finned, and so they were also getting a little banged up. But I just love their color, and with the lights warming up just now in the afternoon, it's not picking up the color of anything great. So let's move on. This is a little bit closer up shot of the turquoise fry. There we go, a little bit better. And these were bred using spawning mops in here, and then they were hatched in tubs outside and grown out outside. I just recently brought them in a few weeks ago, and they were grown out with all of these. I think when I bought these, they were under the name Blue Dream shrimp, Neocaridina, and the shrimp did really well outside in the tubs too. Noticed a really high grade and a lot of babies, a ton of them. So you can see, here's a pretty good shot of one. So it was kind of like an explosion. I had red and blues out, and in the fish room I also have a couple different colors, and so the plan is we'll see how the winter goes, and maybe I can get a couple different colors next year to be this good and this solid. You can tell there's some darker ones in here too, but by and large, I'm really pleased with how consistent they've turned out. So now these guppies are a little lower. I might be able to get them for you. So I'll show you the female of these, and that's the next line that I'm trying to really pull out. But point being, that's a project that I'm looking forward to. I feel like I'm at a point where I'm being stalled a little bit by maintenance. So zooming over to the far side of the rack to our current pea puffer tank. They're doing fantastic. mostly a diet of Scuds. You can see I got some younger ones in here and with some more mature ones, and so far at least, I think because of all the live foods and plants, I have seen zero regression. And they seem to be, you know, apart from just occasionally running each other off of food, you know, nothing too bad. But as you can tell, I can't really see a good example of it. But this tank is the only tank in the room so far, and quite some time I've had it because it's just not a concern with the current setup, but it's planaria. So I have to medicate this tank, which then usually sets my plants back. And you know, I don't love unnecessarily medicating the fish, but with puffers, you know, they have such a carnivorous diet that I've even read some people will routinely or more routinely deworm their puffers. So I have meds that I've used in the past and had no issues with, so, but I've got to medicate that tank. Over here, this is, I'm really excited about this. So if I zoom over here, this is the orange colony that I almost lost. This is the single adult female that is left. And from that one female, I was able to pull out, let's see if we can see all through the snails. I have a snail problem in here. I was able to pull out all of these little orange babies. And so they are growing out in here. I would say maybe 30 or so. Here is a couple. You can see they're still at that stage where you know, I would say the population is delicate. They're hard to find and hard to focus on. See if I can get it any better. I just wanted to focus on the plant there, so sorry y'all. Okay, I had to kind of reset here to even get a decent shot of them. So these little orange Neo-Corydoras are what I'm working with. But as you can tell here, zooming out, there are snails everywhere in here. So as much as I have loaches and pea puffers to eat them, it's still way too much. So while I'm happy, the oranges are continuing to grow out and things are well, I've got work to do in trapping some snails. So we already talked about the guppies. In here, these are the red cherry shrimp that I had growing out outside, and you can see as they grow up, they're, again, I feel like they went up in grade just from having them outside for a few months. As per usual. Oh hi, there's a little pygmy Pygmy Cory. So that's a breeding project I'm hoping to pick up over the summer. We'll see how it goes with the Pygmy Corys. I've got two different types of corys that we'll see if I can get to breed, and I'll see if I can get a better shot. So these are relatively new. I am still probably first few weeks getting these, and they're eating pretty well, but definitely juvenile and need to continue growing out. So like I mentioned, I'm hoping to be able to get some fry from these down the road as they mature, but one of the obstacles is I have two mature Pygmy corys from a leftover batch that are currently in a very well planted 20 gallon, and I would love to get them in with these guys, but that's easier said than done. So just giving you a little zoom through of this tank with all of the red. The red Neocaridina from outside. And we'll move on. So this is what it looks like when you let pearlweed outgrow itself because you're behind in maintenance. It kind of starts to turn yellow and choke itself out. So I finally got around to managing this tank after letting it get way too overgrown. And you can see it went from being more of a nice looking green to kind of like what it is right now, which is yellowish. So from experience, I think this will come back, as far as I know, but it's going to take some time, and you know, so it's just one of those frustrating things that you deal with when you're overwhelmed. So up here, this is a continuation of some Guppy grow out in this tank, which is just awful, I realize, with the light, so I won't spend too much time on there. This is a culture of food for the pea puffers. You can see what's going on in there, not much. Going slowly. So this tank, you can see, is not a display tank or meant to look good, but it's my yellow Neocaridina population, which is just doing really, really well. It almost sometimes seems like the grosser the tank, as long as the parameters work, the better they do. So, but as you can see, throughout here, I've got algae growing and a few guppies that I need to keep pulling out. Don't mind the full-grown guppies in the background. That's a separate 10-gallon tank, so it's just the babies in here with the shrimp. But that's another chore that I'm behind on. So here's a tank that had some plants that I actually quite enjoyed. This is a case of cross-contamination where I transferred some blue shrimp, and with them came some Scuds. So, you know, I say cross-contamination. It could have come from when I purchased the plants from the local fish store too. That's how I got Scuds in the first place. Which, you know, the negative turned it into a positive because I'm a huge puffer fanatic, and Scuds are like the best food ever for them. But you can see it is overgrown in here, but all of these holes in these plants, you might see the snails, but what's eating them, I promise you from my experience, is Scuds. Okay, tanks that I have with snails only and no Scuds, I never have this problem. I can put a piece of anacris in my Scud grow out tank, and they will literally have it down to the stem like a you know, corn on the cob. So Scuds are plant wreckers. But you can see the male guppies are growing out well. I've got nice population. This is where I had to pull those other two tired-looking, the other one tired-looking male. This tank is just kind of in stasis mode. I've got a decent amount of algae growing on it. I used to have CPDs in here, but that population kind of died off. I have, you know, some shrimp in here, but none I'm really attached to. It's kind of a hodgepodge. So the plants, obviously the tiger lotus I love, and I've got some other really cool plants in the back and some good moss going, but this is one of those empty tanks that you know, I've got ready for the next project, or kind of hold until the next project. So this white with pink tail is the female of the strain, all white face. So not the koi face like all the other ones. These guppies are so friendly, I love them. That's the one that I'll be pulling out to the other males, the other two albino males, to hopefully continue that strain. She's one of my favorite females. I'm just kind of observing her a little bit longer because while this is supposed to be a female only tank, you can see she's got a pretty dark spot. But she's kind of dark to begin with back there. So it's hard to tell. She hasn't had babies in a while, and normally when she is pregnant, she is fat, fat, fat. So from that side, she looks less pregnant, don't you agree? But anyway, that's what I'm planning for the future. But you know, you can see from this tank, just a couple of videos ago when I had these stem plants moved in, obviously they did not take. So, you know, I'm working with it. I'm still continuing to try to find a balance point. This tank is really, really, really new, all things considered. So I would say less than 3 months old, and it's got a layered substrate. It's my first tank that I've kind of set up in that way. So the stargrass, which just seems to love my water and my parameters, is doing quite well. The newest growth on my Anubias I am finally starting to get, but otherwise this tank has just really continued to take a hit. Finally, last but not least, I know it's the last thing that you'll see in here at first glance, but oftentimes I call this tank the Hillstream tank, because they're my favorite fish out of here. All the other fish in here, for the most part, are just in various phases of growing out. So I have some odds and ends male guppies, and then 3 rainbow fish fry from my first attempt before I really figured it out. So those are 3 of the turquoise rainbow fry from the main tank. And then over here, you'll see one of, this is a Bloody Mary Hillstream. You can just barely see little hints of the red on there. And I'm definitely looking to grow the Hillstream loach population in this tank, primarily. So I got a few other odds and ends fish in here, just trying to make it more of an ecosystem. But you know, I'm looking forward to trying to continue to set this tank up, so I might be able to have some fry survive, which right now it still needs some work. I gotta find a new holding place for these male guppies. I gotta wait a little bit longer, I think, for these rainbows to grow out before they're big enough to compete for food in the 70 gallon. And then I think we might have a shot. 75 gallon quick shot just for fun. It's probably just for the time being, but I've noticed they've taken it easy on the plants lately. So that's been nice. I'm actually pretty pleased with this tank. It looks pretty good. So. Nothing to complain. This tetra right here was one that had a real bad case of fin rot going on, and so I had to pull it out and treat it with some salt. And man, I tell you what, just with some salt, he bounced right back really, really well. So I was able to add him back in. So this is a tank that I don't show a lot because it's not in the fish room. It's my only tank that's not in the fish room, and it's a display tank. You can see it's a little bit on the cloudier side, and due for a water change, due for a little bit of scaping. You can just see it needs some work. So the fish in here are in great shape. You know, you can see got some embers in there that I've had for a long while. These are axle rod Sundadanios. See them? If it's not for the glare. So, you know, again, it's just one of the cases of like not even considering the general maintenance of upkeep, which I'm right on track with. The fish are healthy, no emergencies, things like that are good. But you know, I have live cultures that need to be redone. In grindle worms, I'm hatching brine shrimp like everybody does. You know, all of these day-to-day tasks that just end up keeping you from being able to progress forward. You know, I've got that last rack of 40-gallon breeders that I've wanted to start for a long time, and I still think it's going to be a while longer before I get to start that. So patience. I'm overwhelmed, but I think with a little bit of patience and continued effort, things will sort themselves out. That's all I got for y'all. I hope your fish are doing well, and have a good week.